Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another podcast. We've already been talking for an hour because we were talking about investments and all sorts of stuff. Nelson has a lot of questions, and I don't have that many answers, but I'm trying. Um,
Hey,
and
you're doing a good job. I'll say that. It's making a lot of sense to me. I will say that. So I'll give you credit for that.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Anyway, we were talking about Roth IRAs. We were talking about how to invest in them, why to invest in them specifically. And basically, what we've talked about so far is you pay the taxes when the money goes in and not when the money comes out, which is a good thing because then you don't have to pay taxes on a crap ton of money when it accumulates. Um, and it's smart and it increases over time because they use index funds or something to make the money increase or whatever. It's compounded annually. So that's what we've talked about, and we've done some calculations, some figuring out how much money you would end up with after 70 years when you take out the money. And we were thinking, Nelson specifically was thinking about doing $500 now, and he is 20 unos.
Well,
20 años.
that's what I have in my Schwab account.
Yeah. And if he contributes $3,000 annually, which means every year, by the age of 70, he will have $1.2 million, which is pretty good. That's so the main thing about a Roth is you want to invest now because it gives it more time to do this, go straight up. And you'll see that here if I increase this to 75 years, it goes even more straight up and then he ends up with more money. So the more
That's
time you get
assuming
it,
that I'll live that long, which
yeah,
probably
assuming
isn't the
you'll live
case,
that long.
but
We can change it to 65 and you'll see it like flatten out. 65. And it's a little flatter and you don't get as much money. But um, we were talking about how to save up this much every year. And basically, you can max out a Roth IRA and it's up to $7,000 before the age of 50 per year. And up to 8,000 after you're 50. So, if he wants to contribute 3,000 a year, that's going to be $250 a month, which is a lot, but we talked about his finances a little bit and it's doable at least right now. And obviously things are going to get better with stuff like marriage where you have one person that can take on the living expenses and the other person that can put away money. And the nice thing about being married is one person can max out both Roth accounts. So if I was married to someone and I was paying for all of our living expenses and I didn't have money for the Roth account, she could max out my Roth account and her Roth account, which is a good thing for both of us because we end up with more money at the end. And you see how much one person can get there. This is starting with $500 and contributing 3,000 a year. You can contribute up to 7,000 a year. So let's see that. That's what you would, I mean, not everybody's going to be able to max out their Roth every year, but $2 million is a lot. And if you have a spouse that also gets $2 million by the age 65, by the time you're 65, you're going to have $4 million, and you don't have to pay taxes on that. So that's really nice. You end up with a lot of money when you're old and ready to just be asleep all the time. So that's a good way to get yourself set up for retirement and not have to worry about money. Um, just live off the $4 million that you have between you and your wife, and chill for the rest of your life. So yeah, that's mostly what we're talking about. Also talking a little bit about some investment stuff, S&P 500 and stuff like Vanguard. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah. Anything else to add for that?
Well, what I do know is that I am gonna have to get started on this sooner rather than later. So when I get access to my account again, as soon as I figure out what the login information is, I do have it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna have to just book it because I know for a fact that it'll pay off in the long run. But I do understand what you were talking to me about earlier with the whole benefit of being married and everything in regards to that.
Yeah.
So that is something that I'll have to talk to my girlfriend about because she her mom was telling her about that whole Roth IRA thing, and yeah, I'll talk to her about it. I'll see what
Yeah.
is it. This is a dumb question, but I know I can get started now, and she can get started now. But yeah, I suppose she could. Yeah, she could make the payments on my account if I were the one that would
Only
be
if you're married.
managing all. Yeah, only if I'm married.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
Yeah, she could eventually start paying for my Roth IRA when I can manage all the housing expenses and all that stuff. So, like you said, it would be kind of like a team. So,
yeah. Yeah. When you're married,
and if
it's
I,
nice because you can tag team the economy. You can have one person working to get both of you by, and the whole family, whatever, and then you can have the other person working to get you set up for the future, which is super nice.
and then what was it? Do you think it would be good if it's even feasible, the person that would be making all the payments on the house and everything, and all the, the expenses like groceries and, the stuff that you mentioned to me earlier? I guess it would be. Do you think it's reasonable to only have one person if they were to invest in an index fund of the S&P 500 or no?
Well, obviously, in the end, your money is going to end up being pooled, sort of.
Well, tax too, I know that, but
So you're going to be able to help each other out in areas where you fall short. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Like, you don't have to build a solid wall between your incomes. Obviously, there are some points where you want to have separate sort of money to spend individually, because you may want different things, and you may not 100% agree on everything that you want to purchase. But uh, most of the time, when accounts are separated in marriages, that means that the marriage is going down the toilet. So you want to have a certain level of financial dependability on the person that you're married to, and you want to be sure to talk a lot to them about your finances, because finances are one of the number one things that cause divorce. Um, so it's always good
well,
to remember.
because of greed, but yeah,
Well, selfishness,
greed to
greed,
some
or
extent,
just
and
like if
yeah,
you're not seeing eye to eye on everything, it causes a lot of tension. So it doesn't even
yeah.
have to be those two. It could just be that you're not talking, or you're not sure what the other person wants or needs. So, um, but what was your question again? Like, is it
Oh,
feasible to have one
do you
person?
think do you think it would be reasonable for one person, like the person that's not managing, if assuming that they're married, do you think it's reasonable for that one person who isn't managing the Roth IRAs to have an S&P 500 or be investing in that
So say
alongside?
say you're the money provider. You're the one that's paying all the living expenses, right?
But at the same time, if it's possible,
You also want to be investing in the S&P, is what you're saying.
but my wife, she's managing my Roth IRA and her Roth IRA.
Yeah.
I guess
Um,
it's if it's doable. I
I mean,
guess.
at the end of the day, it becomes like when you're married, it becomes our money, not your money and
No,
my money.
yeah,
So I can't imagine that
the
your
income doesn't
wife
matter
is
with
going
that
to
rate.
have a $14,000 a year income, because that's what it
No,
would take to
yeah.
to max out the Roth. So she's going to have money left over. But if you do have money left over and you don't know what to do with it, and you after you paid all the living expenses and everything,
Principal,
from your income, it's
Yeah.
definitely in the cards to put that into the S&P or do whatever you want with it. That could just be disposable income. You know, you
I
could
would
spend
put
that on
that,
anything.
well, assuming that we are under a 30-year mortgage, or even better, a 15-year,
Yeah.
pay off the house sooner. I'm gonna have to, I know she's watching this right now. I know she is, but we're gonna talk about it and everything after
One other thing
after we're done and everything.
is a house for the two of you to live in is a living expense, and it's an investment. So you could treat that as both, and you could both contribute to that cost because, like, if you're choosing between living in a rental home or an apartment and living in a house that you have mortgaged, um, chances are you're going to want to take the house that you have mortgaged because you're not just using, like, that's not just a living expense, that's not just where you live. You are putting money towards something you are going to own. That is an investment. um, and you know, if you decide down the line that you want to upgrade to a bigger house, you can either sell that house or you can keep it and save up for a different house, and then you can have two houses and rent one
Would you
out
do a
and make
second
money off of that.
mortgage
It's
or
always
no?
tough to know. It taking another mortgage is more risky if you want to be sound and stable.
Yeah.
Um, you can you should just buy the house outright, but some people do like to leverage their incomes. So what they end up doing is taking out mortgages every time they want to buy a new house. So that's definitely a possibility. But obviously, $1 million house is not really something that is going to be feasible, and it's just not something that's reasonable. Um, at least where we live, and
No.
I don't know. I would say $500,000 or $600,000 house is what should be you should be aiming for, because that's a pretty reasonable house. That's a nice house and plenty of bedrooms, maybe even too much room. Like,
The ones up in Oregon were really nice, I will say. What was it? That $750,000 house I mentioned to you? I think I showed it to you. I may be wrong. But that was like the epitome of what if
yeah,
I make it happen. But
yeah. I mean, you can have dream homes for sure. And if you'd rather have something like that than rental property, that you're a landlord, um, you know, it's all about how you want to live your life, really. To me, just because of the way my family operates, doing living in a $500,000 or $600,000 house, pretty solid, and then having extra homes dotted around that bring in income is my, you know, idea of ideal.
so what is it that they're house flippers, right?
Uh,
Or what is it
it's
that
not so
they
much flipping because they don't go in and then remodel and then sell. They go in and then remodel and then rent.
that's what I meant.
Yeah. And that the best
Do
part
they take
about
out
that,
mortgage on it or no?
they could, but they don't, because it's like it's safer not to. Um, because you know, like if I had $500,000, I could buy one house, or I could buy two houses and put $250,000
Down payment on
down
it.
payments on them, and so I'd be halfway through those houses, and then my income would have to be able to support those every month. Um, and that's more of a pain on my income than just buying the one $500,000 house. But if you're not spread thin, it's a possibility. And one thing that helps is if you're renting out those two houses, um, you get two incomes from each house, and that helps to pay off the mortgage as well. But you have to pay for maintenance and stuff too, so there's a lot to keep in mind.
Is
And
that something you would ever consider doing?
I don't like having loans.
Because it's
I've
that.
heard it's better to do that sort of thing when you're young and you have, pretty decent money, because it's like you don't have that much to lose when you're young. You can afford mistakes and risk. But when you get older, it's better to be more safe with your investments and that sort of thing because you have more to lose.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on how you feel about it. Honestly, I'm inclined to take less risk. That's why I tend to invest, or I would tend to invest more into index funds than individual stocks, because there's more risk with individual stocks, and you could do really well with individual stocks. Like if I had invested in Apple when Apple um, was
Like, say,
making
for example,
iPods.
I put $100 into Apple
Yeah,
4 years ago, then I get a $98 profit off of it, pretty much.
yeah. I mean, well, if I invested into Apple when they were making iPods back when I was like 4 years old, um, and I put in like $100, I'd probably have like $100,000 now because it's grown that much. And you don't see that sort of thing with index funds. It's
No.
just it doesn't happen, because it's like they track the overall stock market, which tracks up, but it doesn't go straight up like individual companies can. Um, but say you like invested into AT&T back in the day, like if you AT&T was like up here and now it's down here, so you just lost a lot of money. It's risky to do individual stocks.
Well, and then I hear a lot of people say it's like gambling, especially. I've heard that,
It
but
kind of is, but it's
it
kind of
it
not.
it kind of is and it kind of isn't, I guess, because you got to do your research, of course, and you need to listen to the quarterly earnings calls, and that basically determines whether or not the the value is
Yeah.
going to go up or down, pretty much.
To me, it seems mostly like either you get lucky or you don't. Because there
That's
there
how it
are
was with
people that claim
Bitcoin,
to be
I thought.
professionals in the stock market, and I've heard that the index funds do better than them typically. So that's just how that goes.
It's more reliable.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Kind of. I. The best part about the home idea, investing in homes, is you get paid rent. You get rent, so you don't just own the home that's worth $500,000. You also get the rent every month, and you can either save that money and put it in an account and accumulate enough to buy another home, and that'll even more that'll be even more to supplement your income, and that'll help you grow your empire if you want one of those.
Monopoly.
Yeah, it's kind of like Monopoly. So you could do something like that, and I think that's what I'd like to do is keep buying homes, saving, investing into another home, fixing it up, saving, keep going. It's just
Yeah.
the problem is it's a lot of work. Like you've seen how busy my dad is all the time,
Oh
and
yeah.
my
I
grandparents. It's a full
yeah,
time
they're
job
they're
after
on
a
a
while.
different they're on a different level.
Yeah.
I wish that I really do wish I could work full time. I don't know what my boss is. It doesn't seem like it's in the books at the moment, and honestly, like I mentioned in like June or something, I'm gonna apply for that company that I mentioned to you about, and hopefully, I know I shouldn't hope or anything, but there's a slim chance that I might get in, and if I do, it's gonna be worth it in the end.
Yeah.
So,
Well, one
because
good
I mean,
thing is good income is early income. So the earlier you're earning money and the less, like right now you basically don't have any obligations. You don't even have to pay rent, which is fantastic. Um and the best part about that is you don't have to be putting your money toward rent. You can be putting it toward other things. And
yeah,
we talked about that, like saving up for a ring and putting money into the Roth. it's a possibility because you don't have to pay rent. And even if you were somebody that was living with roommates in a studio apartment or something, like that could be a possibility for you too, because the rent is diminished and you can focus your money elsewhere. So if you're putting money away early on, it's just a massive leg up. It helps a lot.
It does, yeah. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Sorry about
It
that.
No, you're good. No, it's important stuff. It's good. It's good information, I will say. It, I don't know what led me to ask you this question or anything. I guess I just woke up thinking about something, and then one thing led to another, and then I thought, oh yeah, I ought to do that right now because if I don't, I'm gonna hate myself later on.
Yeah. Well, the earlier the
And
better, and you can start at 18, I think.
yeah.
So if we have any
Well,
18-year-olds watching these videos, then
well, I don't know if because okay, I put like I mentioned to you, I put 500 into my Charles Schwab account, and I could use that for it could be used for as index for the S&P 500. But I don't know if I could transfer that over to the Roth IRA. If I could, I would, but
um,
uh,
should be
I don't
able
think
to,
I
depending.
it
I mean,
should
it is your
well
money.
it is,
If it's
but
just sitting there, I don't
it
know.
is sitting there, and I don't think it. I don't know what for that at least. I don't think it's grown since the last like what 4 years or so. It probably has only gotten like 5 cents or something off of it, but 5 to 10
Well, that
cents. I
sounds
don't
like
know.
it's in something. If it has the capacity to grow, it must be in something.
It probably does. Well, I didn't invest it in anything. It's just sitting there. It's just
Oh, well then it wouldn't grow at all.
no.
Yeah.
Then yeah.
Yeah, cuz
So
like I have an account with Vanguard and you can put money in your Vanguard account and that kind of works like a
literally
bank.
does nothing. It's
Yeah,
like a
and it
savings
doesn't
account.
do anything. Yeah. Um but you can move it into a an index fund or a Roth, I think, and then you can get it moving a little bit. Yeah, always fun. Always fun. This is not financial advice, by the way.
No, no,
I mean,
absolutely
it's
not.
pretty obvious that investing in a Roth is a good idea because it's always been a good idea, um,
Well, I'll
especially
do
from a
that
young
over the
age.
401. So
Yeah. People
I'm
always
gonna.
invest in their 401ks. That's kind of the same deal as a Roth, except this is you don't have to pay taxes on it when it comes out of the account. Um, yeah, 401ks are pretty good too. So if you ever have the opportunity to invest in a 401k, that's a good idea as well.
Well, I'm wondering. It's kind of embarrassing to say it out loud, I guess, but I don't know how long I plan on staying here at this house. I was thinking, I talked to my mom about it, and she said, yeah, 25, 26 sounds fine. She was fine with that, according to her. I don't know if a lot can happen in 6 years, but I'm hoping she does know eventually that I will move out, and whether or not it's going to be into a small apartment or or maybe doing either a 30-year mortgage or something like that on a house.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know yet, but only time will tell. But
Well, I mean,
definitely,
if
it's
you're
not feasible for me right now, I will say. I
yeah,
cannot live with myself right now, unfortunately. I
y-
would if I could. I definitely would if I could because I feel like independence is it's one of the key things going into adulthood, but
yeah. I mean, based on what you've told me, it sounds like you have enough money to do at least three things with it. You can save for the ring, put in the Roth, and then you have a little left over. If
well,
you,
that's all from the savings,
yeah,
so I will say. I'm not going to disclose that because
yeah,
for
obviously not.
various reasons,
But
but
um, you could put that extra into just for saving for something like a down payment. That would be awesome if you could start saving already, because that can accumulate too. But well, you also have your checking stuff that's half of your income. So it's like,
I will say my checkings is slaughtered. It's slaughtered. It's just not. Well, here's the thing. I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but I have more in my savings than I do in my checkings.
yeah,
So
That's a great thing. That's probably how it is for most people. It's a good thing. Um, I don't know how much I have in my savings.
I wish I didn't know, but I have to open up my Capital One to pay off my credit card.
Yeah,
And honestly, I'm just gonna say that credit card is the death of me.
yeah. I don't even have
It's
one.
driving. Well, what's crazy too is okay, I need to ask you this. How are you if you were in a position to, I don't know, take out a 30-year mortgage, how are they supposed to measure if you're able to actually afford that?
Um,
Because
so
usually the
basically, the
first thing that
benefit,
they do is they look at your credit score
yeah,
and that's about it.
the credit score is an indicator of how well you are with money. And the
And
reason they
making
want to know
payments
that
on
is
time.
because they want to know if you're going to be able to pay them every month for your mortgage.
Yeah.
They don't want to loan you money if you're not going to be able to pay it. So if you have a bad credit score, they say, "Oh, that means you haven't been paying the credit card company and you can't keep track of money. So we don't want to
Well,
give you the money for the loan."
I will say, I'm not going to say my credit score, but I've only had the card for about a year and a half. It's in the good range
Yeah.
according to them. It's above 700, I will say that.
Yeah. Um
So, I mean,
so
granted, it's only $300. That's it. That's my limit.
yeah,
So, it's probably a good thing that it's only that.
right.
So,
I think the hardest thing to do without a credit card is rent an apartment. Um because they usually like to see a credit score. Um I do not have a credit card, but I am capable of showing that I am good with money. Um, and that's via other finances. And if you were doing something like a mortgage, like a home loan,
well, you can reference other family members too, as well, I think.
I
Yeah.
think, I
I'm
mean,
pretty sure
maybe,
whenever you do, well, the thing
maybe.
is, I remember I talked to you about, because now I'm at the point where I can. Did I say this to you? I think I did. I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast. I sold a $20,000 mower the other week,
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
and it was. I remember I had managed the financing and stuff on it, so I had to pick the interest rate for X amount of months. The guy had a good credit score too.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I forgot what my point was. Oh, the family members and everything. He referenced his family members too, so he put his wife's name on there, and I
Yeah.
guess they can,
Vouch for you.
use that. They use that information to say, okay, yeah, they are capable, more than capable of making payments. So
Yeah.
I guess there's a little bit of leeway to it and everything.
Yeah.
So
I, I, I've been taught that you don't need a credit card. I
how
mean,
so?
you don't need a credit score. You don't need a credit card. That's what Dave Ramsey says. And
Okay.
I'm inclined to believe him. Now, a lot of people think that's not true, and I'm hoping to be somewhat of a test run for that because I don't want a
Well,
credit
I kind
card.
of want to be a test run too, but
Yeah, I think that so for example, a home loan. You're going to pull out a mortgage on a home that you want to buy. Usually, they want to see your credit score. The bank does so that they can figure out whether or not they should loan you the money. Um, Now, if they have access to my other finances, they can see how well I'm doing, and that's not going to be a problem. They're not going to see not going to need to see a credit score.
yeah, I suppose
Um,
because you're giving your social security and all the other information as well, they can use that to have access to. Yeah. Okay.
the other thing
All right.
is
I see what you mean.
a
Yeah.
larger down payment minimizes risk for the bank because they know number one, you have money invested in the property, and it's a lot of money if it's like a 20% down payment, or a 30% down payment right off the bat. So they're gonna know that you have a lot of stake in that property, and they're also they don't need as much. They don't need as much money from you overall, so that's less that they have to loan you, and that's less risk for them. And I think that's it.
Well, I will say this to you, Logan. My goal is to be as debt free as possible. The
Yeah,
only thing that I want to be in debt in is that 30-year mortgage, and that's about it. That is the only thing.
that's a good way to be.
So I would rather be in debt to that because I know, like you mentioned, it's basically a long-term investment to some extent
Yeah,
because you're eventually going to own that property,
right.
and it'll definitely have, a higher increase. It'll have a much higher value over time.
Yeah. See, that's the problem with renting. It almost makes
It's
paying a
I
mortgage more worth it because when you're renting, you're not actually paying toward owning that property. You're just paying the
I
person.
just to stay there, and that's about it. I tried. I What is it? I mentioned to my girlfriend about it and everything, and she can do what she wants with her life and everything because I think it's important to have some type of independence. But I urged her that I think it would be a lot more beneficial if we just did it right off the bat after we already, have a decent income and knowing that we're capable, more than capable of making payments. I don't know. That's what I think. But I, she wanted to. Her reason for doing the rents was because she could save money over time while also staying and living at a place. And I understand that argument, but think about it. That money could be used towards whatever
Yeah. Well,
30-year mortgage you have.
the biggest argument for living elsewhere is to be able to save more for a down payment. And that's always good. It's always good to have a bigger down payment cuz that minimizes your risk and it minimizes the bank's risk and it decreases the number of years you have to pay for it, decreases the amount of interest you have to pay. It's just a win-win-win-win-win. It's winning everywhere the bigger down payment you have. So that's one argument to live in something like an apartment until you can afford that big down payment.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, otherwise, 100% agree with you. It's always like
Doesn't
say
it take
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, no, no. You were talking.
Say you're spending like I don't know, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 a month on a rental, and you're just renting at 4,000 a month. Um, how much are you going to be paying for your mortgage every month if you just took out a loan and pulled a mortgage on a house? I mean, it's not going to be that much more, and you're going to be paying towards something. So that just makes sense to do.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
On average, how long would you say it takes to actually, the second after a couple gets married, how long do you think it takes for them to go and find a house and do a 30-year mortgage on it? How long would you say? Like within the year or 2 years? Couple months maybe?
It depends a
Because
lot
my
on
girl,
the income, obviously.
yeah,
Um, honestly, let's see. What is 20% of 500,000? I should be able to figure this out really easily in my head, but
isn't it like not
divided by or times point 0.2 times point 0.2. 100,000. So it's gonna take a long time to save up $100,000 for two people. But let's see. If if you're both making like 75,000 a year, and one of you can pay your current living expenses, and the other one can invest, save, and prepare for the future, then you have someone that's working full time to save up for that down payment, and you have you that's working full time to pay for what you're working with right now. And when you get up to that down payment, and that person has saved, so your spouse has saved up enough for the down payment, then you can put that down find the house that you want, put that down on that house, and then you can shift the responsibility. So you were paying for the apartment or whatever you were living in for the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. It'd probably be 2 or 3 years realistically. Maybe even up to 5 years, which is not
That
that
sounds.
bad.
It's not, because by the time you're 30, then you'd already have the house, I guess.
Um,
30,
well, you'd
35.
already
I
have
don't
one
know.
one one fifth of the house anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, that's funny. Um, so you could shift the responsibilities because you were paying for the apartment, and you're not going to have to pay for an apartment anymore because you're going to be living in this house. So you shift and you move to paying for the house, and now she can save for, and it's whoever does which thing. She can
Yeah.
save for something else, or she can keep saving to add more into that mortgage, add extra to the principal every month, and that'll speed up the rate at which you pay off that house really quickly, and that helps a
I
lot
know,
because you're not paying as much interest.
because it goes from like 30 years down to 17.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a lot.
yeah. You can really working together with a spouse. You can really accelerate um, how quickly you get things moving.
See, there are benefits to having a marriage.
Yeah. Well,
There's a it's more to it
there are a
than
lot of
just
benefits.
there are, yeah.
It's not just finances. It's
No,
relational and
other factors to it as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
other factors. Um, yeah. So really, there's a lot to look forward to. But I imagine maybe 5 years. So let's say you're only 20 now.
Yeah.
Let's say
Well,
you got married
21
at
next
25.
year.
Then you could start immediately preparing for that down payment. 5 years, you're 30. You got 20% of a house, and then you can start living in that house and knocking away at that price. And honestly, 500,000, that's a lot for a house here. Um, you might
Yeah,
you
but
might expect to pay 450 for a first house.
the property that her and I envisioned is at least like a house with a couple of acres, like 1 or 2 acres on it, and that's about it.
Yeah. So
That's what we envisioned, because she, of course, she
grew
grew
up
up
in that sort of environment. Yeah.
in that environment, yes, and it's something that she would like to have, at least like some type of horse stable, chickens, ducks, that type of stuff.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is your first house doesn't have to be your perfect house.
Yeah.
So you can always move on from that first location. Um, and often people do. Like you start off in a really cheap house, like a $400,000 or less house, and it's like 3 bedroom, 2 bath, or 1 bath maybe even, and it's I don't know. You can start off there and move on, and you can either sell that house to help pay for the next one, and that would be pretty good too because if you sell that
It could be
house, then
used
you can
for the down payment.
use that for the down payment, and then you have a lot less to pay. Or you could
You
be
hear that,
saving for the
Maya?
next house. Yeah, yeah. He's talking to his girlfriend. Uh, yeah. So you could, and while you're living in that house, we talked about um, chipping away at that mortgage, that first house, the mortgage of the first house. Um, if you even have extra money, you can start saving for the next house and get that ready. There's a lot you could do. A lot to
Oh,
do.
well, hopefully with this company that I'm gonna apply for eventually, hopefully sooner or later it goes up to 6 figures. Because that's how it is. The starting salary was 55,000, and you start at the bottom and you work all the way up. The only way that you can work all the way up is if You ask and you challenge yourself constantly.
Mm-hmm.
They reward that. So I mean, you saw it yourself on that website. So
Yeah. I mean,
no person is gonna write off, well, except for like the top like
yeah.
0.01% are able to make 100,000 off the bat.
Yeah.
It's
My dad was
it's
like,
not.
we should have Nelson come over and change our sink and see if he likes plumbing.
I'm sure I would. Well, the thing is, my mom, at least the cats, my goodness, they're too heavy now. They broke the sink in the bathroom, so now the sink is like sunken, pun
Oh.
intended. It's broken and it's not being held up on the countertop. So we went to Ace Hardware and we bought, what is it called? JB
Caulking?
Weld.
Oh, JB
JB
Weld.
Weld. So what we were gonna do is we were gonna sand it down to get it smooth, and then we were just gonna apply a bunch of JB Weld, and then because it can hold it. It's a 5 gallon. I think it's a 5 gallon or 3.5 gallon sink.
Whew.
Pretty sure. JB Weld can hold it. Definitely hold it. It can hold that much water. It's fine. So I don't know why the guy at Ace
You
Hardware was
sound
like,
like you're
"Don't you?"
justifying a poor decision to me. It's
What do you
fine.
mean?
It'll hold.
It's, well, here's the
Famous
thing.
last words.
It's gonna hold.
It's gonna hold. It'll be
It's gonna
fine.
hold.
Don't worry about it.
Well, well, part of why I think it's gonna hold is because plumbers recommend it.
Yeah.
Plumbers recommend it only if you're using what do you call it? It's these little wedges. It holds up the sink. For some reason, when the contractors that came by to remodel the house, they didn't install those, and that's why the sink broke.
That's
So
that stinks.
the JB Weld that we bought, it is meant for sinks. It was designed to
Hmm.
fix those problems specifically. I don't know why the guy. I almost got into an argument with the guy because I said, "Well, what about JB Weld?" And he said, "Nope, it can't hold it. It's not designed for that." And I'm thinking, okay, well, why is it that everybody else online says otherwise? But
Well,
I don't
if it's
know.
from the internet, that's how you know it's true.
Well, I went onto YouTube and everything, and I saw a bunch of people repair their sinks with JB Weld, and that seemed to have done the trick. If there's a better way, then I'm open to it, but
Yeah. Maybe
there's
you'll
no
learn.
way there's no way that I'm calling a contractor to have him come out to the house and pay them $600 when I could do it myself. It's not happening. I'm gonna do
I've
it this
heard that
Sunday, actually.
before. That's funny.
I'm not doing it.
So
No.
many
If I can
guys in the history of ever have said that.
look, we have a hard time, we don't follow the instructions or anything, especially. We just wing it, and it works 9 times out of 10.
Oh.
And then our wives come up and say, "I told you we should have just called him, and he would have done it." Yeah, I know, but let me
I know.
do it. Let me win
You're like,
for
but I
once.
saved $600.
But yeah, that's
Think
another
about
thing.
what we could do with that $600 I saved. Oh my gosh. That's so funny.
Well, another thing too, speaking of finances, I'm gonna go onto that Dave Ramsey site and I'm gonna
Hmm.
look at all the baby steps. I need to
Oh,
figure
good.
out what step I'm on. I think
Yeah.
I'm probably on like step one. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know because I know it said have $1,000 as an emergency fund.
Is that for
That's
teenagers or is that for adults?
I think that's for teens or no, adults, I think.
Are you sure? I don't know. That sounds kind of low to me.
Is it 5,000?
I think it might be.
Oh gosh, well, I don't have $5,000 lying
Well, it's
around,
not
Logan.
about how much you have, it's about how much you save. Because nobody's going to be able to conjure up $5,000 unless you're rich. And
I don't know, Logan. I'm not seeing it.
I don't know how many accidents you're going to have that only cost $1,000, though.
0.
Yeah. Probably zero.
Save a
Probably
thousand dollars
zero.
for your starter emergency fund. Pay off all debt except the house using the debt snowball. Save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund.
There you go. That's it. That's what it says. 3 to 6 months of expenses. That's a lot. That's like, yeah, that's like 3 to 6 months of, that's like half a year's income. That's a lot of money.
Invest 15% of your household income in retirement.
Hmm.
Well, that's what the Roth IRA is going to be for, of course.
Yeah. Is that going to be, let's see.
Save for your children's college fund. Now, do you think that's optional?
Saving for a children's college fund?
I mean, it would be nice to have that, but I don't know about that. Pay off your home early, build wealth when
Okay,
you
here's what you do. And it's really good for your kids because it helps them a lot. Um, and it helps you a lot in the future because, college funds, they're not just about your kids, they're also about you. Because your kids aren't going to have any money when they're 18. That's just how it
no.
is. Um, so the financial pressure is going to be on you as a parent to pay for that. So if you want to get ahead of that, the way to do it is to put some money aside when your kids are born. So for the first kid, second kid, third kid, fourth kid, however many kids you have,
Well,
start putting in a little money every month when they're born, when each of them are born.
yeah, probably about $20 or so.
$20 a month per kid.
For 18 years? I mean, no. What's the math on that? So 12 times 20 times
I was thinking like 20 a week
a week? Okay, that's what I'm. Yeah,
at
a week
least.
sounds. Yeah, a week sounds more
That's
reasonable.
like $80. That's still not that much. Like if you did $100 a month,
Okay, $100 a month for
yeah,
one kid, I
for one
guess.
kid. Think
Yeah, I
about how much you're going to be
suppose.
spending on your kids.
I know.
There are also funds for this sort of thing. Like they have Scholar Share, and as far as I know, that's like an index fund that you can put the money into, and that also accumulates. So that would help. That increases the amount that your kid gets. But it is optional. It's just like, do you want to give your kids the opportunity to go to college or not? I mean, I guess if like there are ways to play it smart if you don't have any money for college, like going to a junior college and saving money that way, and then going to a less expensive state university. So it is possible. It's just difficult. It's more difficult if there's not money saved beforehand. Um, so it helps a lot. And then once your kids get out of college, you kind of create a snowball effect. So this is kind of what my family's planning to do. Honestly, I don't know if they want me to tell you this, but it's not. I don't think it's that big of a deal. They set money aside for my college when I was really young, and it accumulated. And if it's too much, if I don't end up using all of it, and my siblings don't end up using all of it, they're going to redistribute it and flatten it out so each of us get the same amount. And then they want us to put that money toward our kids' college funds. So we already have a head start for our kids' college funds. So if you do something like that, that would be,
Why do you think that? You wouldn't have wanted to tell me that.
well, I don't know. It might, I don't know if it's getting into too much of our financial situation or whatever, but
No, I don't think so at all.
it's a smart idea. It can help out not just your kids but your grandkids, and it can snowball. And
Yeah.
and if it's too much for your kids, then that's going to be crazy for your grandkids, because if your kids have too much and their kids start out with that much, it's going to snowball like crazy, and then
And this
eventually it's
is
going to be
just
so much
by
money.
what do you call it? Just having an account for them off to the side? Is it
Yeah,
just a regular like
having an
savings
account
account?
or doing like a scholar share sort of thing.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, and that's
Did
that's
you
I think
guys do
that's
the
like an
scholar
index
share or
fund.
no?
Say what?
Did you guys do the scholar share or no?
Yeah,
I see.
yeah. I think they invest it, and then you get to pull it out when your kids are college age.
I see.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah. So that, I mean,
Well, it's not. I don't think it had anything to do with like revealing too much information or anything. I think it's good general knowledge because
yeah.
it is something that you eventually would like to do for your kids and then your kids' kids and yeah.
Well, and the nice thing about
Or you could go to war, which probably will happen. I mean,
the nice thing about having money set aside for things like that for your kids is, instead of trying to afford to buy them college when they're college age, you can try to afford to buy them cars, and then they have a way to get to college by themselves, and that's the best.
that's the one thing I'm not gonna do at all. I'm not doing any car loans. Nope, not happening.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not happening. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I can't bring myself to go down to the bank, do a however many years for a car loan or anything like that. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be in debt. I don't care.
Yeah.
Only thing like I mentioned to you, I just want to be in debt for the mortgage and that's about it.
Well, you don't want to,
If I
but
can't if I can't afford the car, then I'm not gonna no. If I can't
yeah,
pay if I can't buy it outright, then
you can't
I'm
buy it
not
outright. That's it.
no.
End of story. Have to go
Well,
for
I
a
remember
cheaper car or
well, the thing is, I mean, you saw me texting you a bunch of used cars and everything, and I wanted your opinion on them. And I mean, I have learned a little bit of stuff along the way. Okay, if it's under 50,000 miles and if it's X amount of dollars and how many owners it's been through, those are good factors to seeing whether or not there's value in that car.
yeah,
But the only thing is, look, I like the truck that I have, I do, but oh my gosh, the gas is awful on it.
yeah.
I'm sorry. It's 100 like $120
Let's talk about
for
cars now, shall we?
for for 30. Look, I know we wanted to talk about Nintendo and the console and everything. We'll get
Oh,
to it, of
that's all
course.
right.
We will. We're
If we
50
don't
minutes
get to
into
it this
this.
time, we can talk about it another time.
Well, the thing is, for this truck, it's a good truck. I like it. It's got about 205,000 miles on it.
Which
It's
is a
probably got
lot,
about
by the way.
it's got probably Logan. It's probably got another 200,000 on it left. Presumably, trucks last a long time. And but like $120 for 36 gallons of gas. It's
Yeah,
it's just I can't bring myself to drive it even sometimes. I
yeah,
can't because just knowing in the back of my head when I put $50 into the tank, it's only going to move like not even a quarter of the way.
yeah,
It hurts. And I mean, I like that truck, I do, but there I was looking at some other used cars, but then I thought to myself, yeah, but what about the Roth IRA? And there's just so many other factors that come into play. I think what I do need to do, I think the first step I ought to take is this weekend I'll probably get started with the Roth IRA and then move from that point onwards. I'll probably diversify a little bit.
yeah,
I think that'll be a good first step, but for cars especially, I looked at car loans and everything. The rate is like 9% or something. It's really bad at the moment. And even then, even if it's a low interest rate, I really don't want to do car loan. I'd
yeah.
rather not. But
So here's what you can do about the car situation.
yeah,
You're not going to be able to buy the car you want.
no, I
Um,
know that.
your problem right now is gas mileage, so you need to target um, a cheap car that's an economy car. Um, and maybe you can put your truck toward that. But ideally, you want something that can get you around for the next decade of your life and not have to worry about it. And maybe you get a cheap car with a cheap warranty, like a Hyundai or something. They have a 10-year drivetrain warranty. Um, so you need something that's cheap and gets good gas mileage that can get you to work, that sort of thing.
Well, after the podcast, if you're interested, we could probably take a look real quick if you really wanted to.
Yeah, we
I
could
mean,
take
that,
a look at
yeah.
some specific cars.
Yeah, I don't want to look on the podcast because it'll reveal our location and everything.
Yeah,
I know that,
100%.
but
Um, but we could talk about like concepts for cars, right? Because
yeah,
basically you're going to aim for the $20,000 range because that's like the affordable. That's like almost as cheap as they get. Um,
at
and
this rate, yeah.
yeah, you may be able to put your truck toward that for like $2,000, $3,000. It might be worth that
I
much.
I tried looking to trade in. I can't do trade-ins on it.
Yeah,
I it
I mean you
it's
might be
just
able to sell it privately and then take that money and put it toward a new car. That's a possibility. If that's not something you want to do, like you want to keep the truck around,
the plan
um,
was I was gonna give it to my brother. That way he has something to go around with,
yeah, that's a possibility too.
assuming that he gets his license.
Yeah,
But I
um,
mean, he should sooner rather than later right now. I
yeah.
don't know. But he's probably going to get it either this year or maybe as early as next year. I don't know.
Well, you have to have a car before you can give a car.
That's true.
And you're not going to be able to, with your income, afford a car in the next 2 years probably. Um, so I would say what you'd have to do is start saving now. Make a specific fund just for the car. In your whether that's in your savings account and you just keep track of how much money you have saved toward it. Um, you can start putting money toward that goal of 20,000. It's gonna be a while before you can save up that much. But I would say that if you can buy a brand new car with a new warranty and it lasts 10 years, then you don't have to pay for that sort of maintenance and it gets good gas mileage like you want. You'll be saving money on gas. You'll be saving money over a car that you'd actually want. And honestly, it sucks that you have to start with something that you don't want. But really, what it
Yeah,
has to
but that's
do,
where most of yeah, but that's where most of the growth and progression comes from.
yeah, you have to
You
save
wouldn't
the cars that you want for your later years when you can actually afford them.
you
That's the
wouldn't have
problem.
gotten in that position if it wasn't for that crappy car that you got in the first place.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
it's
mean, I was
it's
looking at some
tough.
Toyotas. I was looking at a little bit of the Toyotas because those are, I mean, you've seen those, especially in the Middle East. They just get ran into the ground.
Yeah, they go and
It,
go and go, and
yep.
that's. I mean, you don't necessarily need that
No.
because you'll be. I mean, you're in a pretty good spot right now. Anyway, you're only 20, so let's think like if you had a car. Let's say you saved for the next 5 years to buy a car. Um, you would be able to have that car until you're 35, and by then you should be kicking along enough that you have and you should have a stable income, and you should be able to save up to buy something you potentially actually want to have, um, whether that's a Miata or whatever,
Well,
a new nice truck or whatever. Yeah,
it depends what my girlfriend wants. That's up to her.
yeah.
So,
Does she have
because
a
for her,
vehicle?
she does. She has a truck as well.
And it's
Uh,
it's hers. As
her
she owns it.
she owns it and everything. The thing is, for the truck that I have, I need to go down to the DMV. It's not under my name.
Mm,
It's not. I do need to get that changed, but um, for this was something, and I told her it's going to be something like realistically way down the line, of course, like after either the house is paid off or something. I told her that we would like to eventually go camping and everything, and having a good truck would be nice.
Yeah.
That good camper
So you
as
have to
well.
save up for the truck and the camper then.
I know there's a lot of stuff. I
That's
told her
probably like a few years of
I
saving right there.
well, and I told her, I said, look, I don't. I told her earlier today. I said I don't want to be in debt to some college fund or anything like that. I don't want that. I don't want to be in debt into anything else except the mortgage, and that's it. I told her if I can't afford it, then I'm not going to pay for it.
She is
So
going through college, isn't she?
she is, and she has told me, and I said, look, it's up to her if she wants to do it. She can make that decision. Um, she does know to some extent that she may or may not go into debt, and she asked me about the school that you go to, and she's thinking about transferring to the unit to that university
Oh,
that
the
you
one that
go
I go
to.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, to that university that you go to.
Yeah.
And
That's a smart
I
idea.
think
It's cheap.
it is cheap.
And she can live
It's
at home.
cheap and it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
The biggest thing about I think the biggest benefit about going to the one I go to is you can live at home because that saves so much money and the food costs and everything saves so much money.
well, I'm hoping another thing too. I'm hoping by then at least. I'm really hoping this year I get into that company and I start working full time. I know that the wage is not going to be great because they're paying for schooling as well. They're paying to teach you how to, get certified as a plumber, but
Well, let's see. It'll be what, like 5 times as much as you're currently making?
it would be. It honestly would be.
So just think about
The
how
earn
many
rate.
doors that opens up, especially if you're living at home for the first few years, which is what my parents did, by the way. So there's no shame in living at home for the first couple years of your like that's not quite your career. That's not quite there yet because you're still in that entry level position, and
But
you're working your
eventually,
way up to that amount of pay.
it eventually is going to turn into a full
Yeah,
blown career. It
eventually.
will. It
Yeah,
eventually will. And
it's
they even
probably what several years,
it'll be
half a
several
decade.
years. Well, there was a guy, you saw it on that site. He said that he worked for the company for over 15 years and he basically turned it into a career.
Yeah,
That's what he said. So it pays off in the long run. It's totally doable for what they offer and the many benefits that they have. It's great. But the thing is, my mom is concerned about, okay, well, if you're gonna get onto it, if you're gonna get accepted and start working for them, uh, I'm no longer going to be covered by her insurance. At least I think that's what she told me. So
so you'd have to
she
be paying
said
into your own insurance, is what she said.
pretty much. She told me that I think it was health insurance specifically. So she said I'm covered under her health insurance by the time I'm 26.
Yeah, that's
But
California.
crap,
I don't
you're
know
gonna
if it
have to cut
matters.
that out. Oh, it doesn't. It's fine. Oh well.
If you
Now
want it cut
everybody
out, I will.
knows.
But yeah,
You better mark it down or something. It's at around the hour mark or whatever.
okay,
It's up to you. But if I work for that company,
yeah.
good grief, Nelson, uh, it should. Gosh, my dog is barking outside of my door. Sorry. I forgot what my point was because she keeps crying, but it should turn into a full blown career.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think I will actually lose the health insurance from my mom, so I won't be under her insurance anymore.
Health insurance is expensive, but it's not that bad for one person. Like when you start paying for a family of six, and that's what is is the case for my family. It's
It should
like
be cheaper for
this is
my mom
terrible.
eventually then.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it'll be cheaper on your mom, which is nice. And since you have 5 times the income of your current income, that shouldn't be much of a problem for you. But the thing about the 5 times an income is that's really good is you have much more saving power, many more places that you can put that money. Like right now, buying
I
that
got
first
nothing to
car.
work with.
Well, yeah, basically. But buying that first car with your current income, it would take a long time.
It
With
would take
that
forever.
next income, that step up, um, it's going to be a lot easier to save up quickly for that car. Um,
The
and
paychecks.
that could take it from like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years down to like 2 or 3. Because if you're taking in, I don't know, half, let's see, half a hungy, 50,000 or so, that would be that'd be really solid for whatever you needed to do.
Yeah.
Put it in a lot more places.
Well, I'm hoping because I mean, if I don't get applied, I'll probably call them and I'll ask them, "Hey, what's the deal? You guys have it listed and everything. Or I don't understand."
Yeah,
Whatever. I know
you have
it's
to figure
something
that
that's
out
not,
soon.
I know. Well, that's the thing. Okay, this is my problem. It's not really a problem, but I think it's a problem. According to my mom, it's not, but I think it is. And I want to quit my job at the moment. I really do. I'm getting kind of tired of it. Being there is great. With all the experience I've gotten from that place, it was nice. But the thing is, I know what I want. I know it for a fact. And I could apply right now if I wanted to and see whether or not I get accepted in like 3 to 5 business days. Or I wait until June when plumbing is probably at its highest peak or something. Well, plumbing is always going to be at its peak, but
I would say you apply as soon as possible,
okay. Well,
and
my
then
mom.
if you
Sorry.
need to quit your current job, then you just break the news. Say, hey, I'm moving on. I've got something else lined up, and I'm ready to move on to it. And they want me on these days. So how soon can we get that moving?
Well, the thing is, my mom told me, she said, it's going to look way better on your resume if you have 2 years of experience from your current job.
2 full years is what she's saying.
Yes, that's what she said. Because
Yeah,
right now, I have a year and a half's worth of experience. I've been working since 2023, since May of 2023.
yeah, that does make sense. Um,
But the thing is, it's part-time. Like, I'm trying to convince myself it's a part-time, it was a first part-time job.
yeah,
But the thing is, when I apply, and my mom makes a really good point on this too. She said you don't want to give them the impression that you're job hopping.
yeah. I don't know.
So
People who job hop make the most money.
do you
Have you
think
ever
I
heard
ought
that?
to just well, I don't know
I
about
don't know what you ought to do in that situation.
well,
I do think that the 2 years experience does help a little bit on a resume.
it
And
looks
it
better.
shows that you can commit to something. Um, I don't know. I mean, you could call and ask the company that you're hoping to work for, and say, "Hey, I am 1.5 years into my current job part time,
Soon
and
to
I'm
be two.
thinking of applying. Um, is it going to make a difference me staying another half a year with this job on my resume?" I mean, those are kind of. I think that's a kind of a question that you could ask if you really weren't sure about it, and that would give you a definitive answer on what to do.
Well, another thing too is when I called that company initially, I asked the lady, I said, "Hey, I'm I just finished my 2.5 years of junior college and I'm working part-time. I have about a year and a half of experience. I was curious about how do I apply on your website because I noticed here it says, "Oh, apply today," but there's no listings. Like you don't the website said, "Oh, you can apply on our website." I go to the website and it's like you can't find it. And the lady said, "Oh, you go to indeed.com to apply." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I asked her, I said, "Is the 3 years like a necessity or is that just a guideline?" And she said, "It's just a guideline." So I'm gonna have to call them again. I'll call them again.
Is there a
I don't.
location that you can go to?
So there's one. I can't say the location on the
Yeah,
podcast.
but do you know of one that you could go to?
There is one. Well, you saw it on the website, of course, and it's here in this city, of course.
Yeah,
So I could theoretically,
I would
you know,
say um, that going to a physical location is the best shot you have ever at getting a job, because people who show up are people who are serious. Um, Anybody can call. Anybody can apply online.
yeah,
If you show up, that shows that you are here. You are able to come in. You are serious about asking questions and getting to know what needs to be done. And you're not just some guy that has a bunch of other jobs that lined up online that he's applied for.
yeah.
So I would suggest maybe finding that
Yes,
location and going in and seeing if you can set up an appointment or ask questions or figure out how your future is going to look like in that respect.
yeah.
It's a hard thing because so much of what we do is online nowadays,
I
and
know.
that's what we've been conditioned to um, stick with, especially since all of our homework has been online for the last however many years, and that's just how we've submitted it and gotten it done, and that's been the best way. But I think it shows a special sort of dedication when you go to a site and tell
Hand
them
them
what
your
your
resume
plans
and
are and what you'd
everything.
like to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'll have to look online after.
yeah.
I'll have to check after the podcast. I'll check and see if I'm pretty sure they do have a location here in this city. I'll have to check.
Yeah. My sister has been on the job search as well, and
I know.
she's
How's she been for the in regards to that? I know you mentioned that she was doing what was it? A couple of was it wasn't volunteer work? I know that.
she was thinking about it, yeah. Shadowing and such. Um, but she has been utterly uh, against going to a location to apply for something. And I think that has put her at a severe disadvantage because
What's her reason behind it?
I think she's just too timid. I don't think she wants I think she's really uncomfortable with doing something like that. Um
Well, the
and
only
that's
way of
part of
doing
being a
it,
woman, I think. I think that's kind
well,
of part of the difference between men and women is men are
yes.
willing to go in and say, "Hey, I'm here. What can I do to get this job?" Hold them by the shirt collar and say, "Hey, I'm here. I want this job." And women sit in the background and they type away. I mean, obviously men do that too, and it's just kind of the way it is now, but there's a difference
Well, I think
between here and on your keyboard behind a
well,
screen.
the temperament is different, of course.
Yeah. And I think that's just one of the things. I think that it puts you at a significant advantage if you go in and you're showing up and you're showing that I'm a real person and I really want this job and I'm not just a bot online. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Especially for like a physical job. If you're doing physical labor or you're out in the field doing something like plumbing, it's really
Let me check
important that
and see.
you show you're able to show up to some place and be accountable.
I wonder if they are here in this city. Yeah, they are in
Yeah.
here in this city, off of this road, next
So
to that location.
I don't
I'm
know.
being very careful with my words. So I guess I could just, well, it's a single location, so
I'm sure they have something
I,
like a information desk that you can go up to and
I guess
you
and
just go
ask
up
him
to
about
them and
job
say, "Hey, I've
applicant.
got a few questions. Do you mind helping me out? Because I think I'd like to work for this company." And there's a big benefit because you get somebody that knows the place and knows the ins and outs, and you don't have to worry about figuring out how to navigate a website that could be confusing. So I think that could be a good first step if you're not sure, especially. Definitely a good first step. Uh, Because emails get overlooked all the time.
They're open 24 hours a week.
Yeah. So that means that you have like 24 times of the day where you could say, "Hey, I want to go in." 24
I might go in.
chances every
I
day.
might go in Sunday and ask him.
Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty you can do to find out. And
I don't
you
know.
may go in and they say, "Oh, just check the website," but say, I don't know. Even if that's the case, it's still a something that sets you on the path. It's still some grooves, some guidelines that show you where you need to go, points you in a direction. So always that's a good place to start is going to a location and finding out a little bit. F around and find out.
Well, I'll probably do it at a level of 10.
A level 10.
Yeah, to
What's
see
that
how
mean?
much I'm gonna find out.
Oh, level 10 on on the chart. Yeah.
Probably because, well, I'll ask him if they have any job applicants and I'll see.
Yeah.
I'll
And
do that.
we talked a little bit about phone calls, um, but if you have to choose between emailing and phone calling, uh, if if there's a choice, definitely choose phone calls because there's more personability there, and it's easier to get what you want because people are better at understanding others vocally than they are at
Emotion.
reading what they think people want. It's much easier to say everything that you think you need to get off your chest in person on a phone call than it is to type everything and hope they get what you mean. So those are good things to keep in mind, I think, as well. I'm excited for what I'm going to do. Part of it too is being ahead of schedule. So like if I'm going to get a master's degree and I want to go directly from where I am to a different school to get that master's degree, the key is to be ahead. So if you remember when we were in high school, we applied like half a year ahead of the first semester of college. That's the same deal for basically anything. So I would say, well, with my master's degree, I'm going to apply in the first or second half of my senior year for that school. So I can make sure that everything is lined up and I can get in. And I think the same goes for jobs. You want to have something lined up ahead of time. You want to see if it's feasible. You don't want to just get to the end of where you're at and then sit around for 3 months because you don't know what to do. You want to have a clear path ahead of you set before you end up where you're done with where you're at is what I'm trying to say. So before you're done with where you're at, you gotta figure out where you're going next. And it's kind of that's how everything goes in life. We were talking about the finances. Before you get to where you're going, you gotta figure out why you're going there and what's going to be at the end of that path. You can't just get there and say, "What are we doing?" Like you plan out a road trip before you go on the road trip. You don't just get in a car and drive and get to where you're going and then say, "What are we doing here?" Like you don't say, "Hey, we're going to Disneyland." And then you get to Anaheim and you don't have Disneyland tickets. That's not how you do it. You have to plan months ahead. You have to buy the tickets. You have to get everything prepared, the hotels, whatever. You don't just show up to Anaheim and say, "Okay, now what?" Because you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to be stuck in your car, sleeping overnight in your car. And I don't know, maybe at best eating at restaurants surrounding Disneyland, but you're not getting in. So everything we do is like that. Have to prepare ahead of time.
Well, luck does favor those who are prepared.
Yes, that's true. That's right. um, do we want to end it there? Or do we want to? Do we want to? I guess I'm 100% okay with leaving what I had planned for next week because I have no attachment to it, and honestly, I don't know what the heck we're going to
I
talk about next week anyway.
Well, obviously, what we're going to talk about next week is Trump's inauguration.
That too. Yeah. So I don't know. Do we want to?
We
We're
could end
already an
on
hour and
this.
20 minutes in.
We could end on this note, I guess.
Yeah. Be prepared for the future. Everybody
I
out
know.
there, you, and Nelson, and me. We all have to be prepared. And I did most of the talking, and I feel bad about it, but
Oh,
it has
please.
to be done.
'Cause you want to know something, Logan? Real quick. And my mom was right about this too. She told me that, Nelson, you were yapping nonstop the last, last episode about work. And she's not wrong,
Yeah.
because I did go back to listen to it, and I will say that was very bad of me on my part, and I know I'm better than that. So my mom was right. She said, you just need to, before you step into the house, you just need to understand that needs to be left at work. You're entering a different environment. It's important not to bring that toxicity into the house. So
Yeah.
yeah, what happened at work happened at work. And just take a minute in the car to breathe, relax, and then just come inside. And you could either, if you really wanted to, just say how your day went, talk about it just for a little bit, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because she's not wrong. Because what I do is I take a small portion and then I just go way down the rabbit hole. And it is bad of me, and it is something that I understand that it's a problem, and I would
We
like
live
to
and
work
learn.
on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully no more of that nonsense moving forward,
Yeah. I mean,
but only time will tell.
we all have a lot to get off our chests, and there are some things that we can do stuff about and some things that we can't. And that's just kind of how it goes. Like, I don't know. There's a lot that's happened where I work that I'm not happy about. A lot that I've done that I don't want to do, but I've done it anyway because I've been told to. But there's nothing I can do about it. So I just forget about it, play video games, and go back to work again. That's how it is, and I just have to know that I'm not. I mean, obviously, I'm not unhappy on the job. I like the job. I'm happy that I'm able to help and provide the service, and I'm happy that I'm appreciated as much as I am, and I'm surrounded by so many nice people. Honestly, that's something that has been a massive blessing. I'm in a very unique situation, and I'm pretty lucky. And honestly, I think they're pretty lucky too because the campus that I work at would not be as in as good shape as it is now if they didn't have someone like me. Not just me. I mean, and it could be anybody. They need somebody hired there. That's just how it is to manage what I do. But yeah, there are some things that we can't control that we need to just kind of deal with, and that's how it goes. And
Do they need another person there or not?
yes, they do.
Are they interested in doing that?
No, they do not have the funds, unfortunately,
I
to
see.
do that. They don't have enough to have me on for as much time as I need to be on. Um, and they haven't been able to get that sorted out. That's just kind of how churches are. We don't have the necessary funds for things we need to fund. That's just how it goes. And there's nothing we can really do about it. And we complain. We can complain all we want, but it's just complaining about it is just downhill battle. Just doesn't improve things at all. So you know, I volunteered 30 minutes of work today. I went over my time by half an hour, and that was the maximum set. So just volunteered 30 minutes. That's how it goes. And I imagine I'll be volunteering even more in the future because I'm not going to be, I don't think I'll be working there um, in the next 2 years, but I imagine over the summers they're going to need some extra help. So stuff like that, and over the winters, that sort of thing. So volunteering at a church, I'm fine with it, and that's just kind of how it goes. So
I asked my mom what she thought if I were to apply for the Taco Bell down the street over
that's
here.
funny. I like that idea.
Well, I was thinking about it. I don't know, maybe,
Yeah, I mean,
but
$20 an hour.
well, yes, that's one
They
thing,
probably
but
can't afford to have you on as long as you are at your current work.
I know another thing too is that,
Wouldn't get as many hours.
well, as much as I would like full time,
Yeah.
I would like to work 5 days a week. I keep rolling in my chair. Uh, I don't even think that it's in the cards for them. It was
Yeah.
something that they told me, yeah, we'll look into it.
Yeah.
But okay,
That just
I
means
mean,
no, basically.
well,
After a certain
it was,
amount of time, it's just like the answer is no. We can't afford to have you on
yeah.
like that.
The thing is, I'm not gonna bring it up to them or anything. Well, what's interesting too is that my boss brought it up to me. I didn't even ask
Yeah.
about it. He asked, "Would you consider working full time?" And I
Yeah.
said, "If it's fine with you, I'd be totally fine with working full
Yeah.
time. I'm done with school."
Yeah.
I don't know. She said that she would give me an update on it. She said she would talk to me about it.
Yeah.
She would.
Well, I mean,
Now,
I have like 5 bosses as well, and some of them have told me that they would like to have me on for more hours, but there's it's just not in the cards. The church doesn't have the funds for that, and I know that,
no.
and that's just how it goes.
I think what I was going to do, I was probably going to ask him at the end of the month about it. I
Yeah.
was going to bring it up to her and I was going to, no, you don't think it's a
No,
good
I would
idea?
say maybe bring it up one more time, and if there's no answer on it, then just assume that it's not going to go
I'm
anywhere.
just going to drop it. And
Yeah.
honestly, probably because the only request that I made for her was that make an adjustment to my schedule where I can have 2 days off consistently.
That'd be nice.
It's degrading having to go from work, day off, and work, day off. It's tiresome. I can't keep up. It's ruining my sleep schedule, especially.
Hmm.
But the thing is, if I get an adjustment made to the schedule where if I have consistent days off, it may open the door up for me to maybe apply elsewhere.
Mm.
Maybe. Because if that were the case, if I could have Friday, Saturday, or even Sunday off,
Yeah, you could fill those
or
days maybe with some other job part
then
time.
I could probably apply for the Taco Bell down here and work part time as well.
Yeah,
So I'll have a lot
even more money coming in. That'd be
more at
better.
hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, I think with what I have especially, I'm good at the whole customer service aspect because the thing that I have in my mind is don't fight the customer. That's one of the things that I have especially. And it has paid off especially in the long run, I would say, ever since I first started working at this current job that I have. So,
Yeah.
I'll have to I'll think about it.
Yeah.
I I don't know if I should do that if
Well, I
I
think the biggest
should
thing would
just
be getting your next steps in line before you get the current in line. So, I mean, you already have a pretty good current situation. And I would say if you can figure out that next step, the big job that you're thinking of going to,
just do
see
that
see
or
what they have. Well, find out if you can apply. Find out what you need to do to get a position there. Find out everything you need to know about it so you can have it lined up. And then if you figure out that it's a possibility, then you can get,
jump the gun.
well, either that or you can maintain that you know that that is something you can do, and you can add more to your plate if you need to for now. So just make sure that that's a possibility, and then if it is, then you can focus on right now and work up to that point. It doesn't have to be right away. You can just make sure that it's a possibility and make sure that everything's set up over there and you've got everything that you need to know, and then focus on what you want to do for now. In the meantime, lots that you can do. I'm I'm just kind of stuck where I am, so I'm just gonna keep hacking away at bushes and stuff and figure out. I guess I have a pretty set plan of going to the master's degree, so that's, I don't know.
Well,
Just
I
that's
think
just
what you have
prolonging the
going.
inevitable, I guess. You're good. You're getting right into it. You're brave. I'm
Well,
just
the
putting
thing
off
is,
what I need to do.
look, and I know I mentioned this on the prior podcast, but it's just not for me. I
Yeah.
understand the benefits that come with it because I think having pursuing a higher education is a good thing. I really do think that. But for me, at least, with what I have in mind, my line of work that I'm interested in, it doesn't align with college, I would say. It just doesn't. And my mom, and I think she's probably one of my biggest supporters, alongside you, of course, and my girlfriend. She told me that she thinks that it's a good thing that I'm choosing to take a different path than everybody else because you don't really hear that much about kids that, you know, who follow a crowd or anything where they all go to college, they get their degree and they apply for a job. I'm not saying that's bad or anything, but you don't hear it often where you get a few number of people that decide I'm not going, I'm just going to either go to trade or find something else that'll work for me and make a living off of it. And it turns out they're some of probably the most successful people on earth.
Yeah.
Or they're the most, in terms of, I guess you could say, not happiness, but satisfaction.
Hmm.
They're some of the most satisfactory people on this earth.
Yeah.
Like the tradesmen, from what I've heard, from all the videos I've seen of people who are plumbers and welders and,
Don't
they
forget
do
that it is
HVAC.
really hard and potentially frustrating work.
Well, of course it is.
Yeah.
That's why you keep
That's
doing
kind
it.
of that's how all work is, and it's just, my dad
Well,
hates plumbing.
the
That's
thing
what I'm
for
trying to say.
the thing for me is my mom knows it and my girlfriend, even you know it. All three of you guys know it. You guys all know that when I have a problem, like when I'm facing a problem, I do not know when to put it down and take a break and then come back to it. I will do it until it is done.
Yeah.
This is just how my mind is, and I think with what I have going, it fits perfectly because I am someone, at least I think, who is persistent in a lot of in like challenges, especially.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's frustrating. It is because it should be a lot more. It ought to be more simple than what it currently is. But at least to my own knowledge, I think this is in it for this. This will benefit me the most.
Yeah. Well,
But
I'm
on
glad
that
you have
note,
an idea of. It's always good to have an idea of what's ahead. You have a plan. You have something that you think you want to do. That's always good, and always good to pursue that and see if you like it. So yeah, between finances and that and everything that we've got planned for the future, there's a lot of plans, and we gotta see them through. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah.
well, here's another thing. I look, delaying gratification is one of the hardest things that it's it's so difficult.
Yeah.
I look, the
One
PC
marshmallow
was
today or two tomorrow, Nelson.
two tomorrow. It's
Yep.
got to be two tomorrow. I will
Yep.
do
Yep.
two
Yep.
tomorrow. I can't do.
It's
I
hard.
I can't.
It definitely
Well,
is hard.
I'm canceling the Hulu subscription as well. Look,
Yeah.
the $10 a month thing I thought wasn't bad at first, but now I'm thinking, yeah,
Well,
I
there's
just
one thing you've got to remember is there's no shame in putting money aside for um, discretionary spending. So that's, wants more than needs.
well,
Um,
here's the thing. For
there's more
COD at
room for that.
least,
and a bigger income.
I'm willing to pay $30 for, I don't know, some cosmetic or something like every month or so, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I can't. That's the thing. I'm glad that the cosmetics in a lot of video games nowadays aren't really eye-getting for me anymore. It's just not.
I thought you were
To
gonna
some
say they aren't expensive, but no, they just don't catch
extent,
your eye.
they aren't. Well, here's the thing: the COD cosmetics aren't good anymore.
Get ready for
They
Marvel
really aren't.
Rivals cosmetics, man.
Well, the Marvel Rivals is good. I will say that. The only thing that I bought for Marvel Rivals is the Invincible Iron Man skin from Avengers Endgame. The Avengers Endgame Iron Man skin, the Mark 85. That's it.
Yeah,
Nothing else. I don't have any interest in anything because that's the only character I play as. That's it.
for now.
So, for now, yeah. But that's all. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let's sign off, shall we?
Yeah, let's sign off because I'm an hour 35 in here and
Yeah,
I'm parched. I need something to drink.
me too.
There's nothing in here.
There's nothing
But
in my bottle too. Well, uh, we've only an hour and a half into this one, but we have been talking for 2.5 hours at this point. So
yeah, we
we,
have. Thank you for listening to us babble.
yeah, thank you for listening. We appreciate you guys, and Grandma, we know you're watching, and Aunt Carrie, and all those people, siblings, whatever. We appreciate all of you guys too.
I'm gonna
Um,
get random text from my mom. She's gonna be like, "I didn't say that. I never said you should do
I know.
that. You can do." She does that
She's
to me
gonna
all the
say,
time.
"What's Logan doing, contradicting me? Shame on him." No, we appreciate all you guys, and we appreciate all your input. We're in debt to our family, of course, as always, and we
Oh my
appreciate all
gosh,
the
I'm in
support.
massive debt to my family. Good Lord, I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Well, we're very lucky people. Anyway, we appreciate all you watching, and this is Logan, and
This is Nelson. Thank you for listening to the podcast.
thank you for listening.